around college football this spring portal?
Yeah, so it's the spring portal, right? The spring portal is more or less the same. Last year, I was super upset because we were told it was just going to be like some dynamite. Went and bought a Wizards costume, made some jokes about how my Wizard hat that wouldn't stand straight up needed Cialis because it wouldn't stay up, and nothing happened. This time, it's been a bit more action. I will say that, and I think the Nico drama has a lot to do with that. We saw college football's first trade. Um, and there's been some bigger names hit, but I think right now it's two ways to look at this, right? Whenever you're Alabama and you don't see that there's been a lot of movement, both of guys entering the portal and exiting the portal, I think that whenever a fan in the modern college football looks at that, there's some that could say, well, why is Alabama not doing anything? I kind of take the opposite approach, though. I sit there and say, man, the buy-in must be real high from the guys on the team because you don't have guys exiting. And Alabama right now, to me, is being super selective. Now, I'm not going to lie to you all. Dan, you and I were talking in the green room. There are some names I would have liked to have seen Alabama go after. I think that the kid from Syracuse, the defensive lineman that Texas just got, is a kid that think he was a true freshman, real high upside, going to be an interesting player to watch develop over there at Texas. I think they did a good job getting him. But when you ask, well, why wouldn't Alabama do that? One, what was the asking price? I don't know. I have no idea what the asking price was. But maybe for Alabama, they were like, hey, we like what we have. And that asking price, while you are worth it, while you do command that price, we just don't know if we want to pay that price because we do like the room. I think Clint Lamb put it best, and this is where I want to pass it to Petty. Clint was on the show a few days ago, and he was talking about Bama wasn't going to probably be looking for big splash additions in the portal, but they're going to be looking for that depth piece, that piece that helps the guys develop. He made a point by saying, hey, when Bama was, at the top winning everything with Nick Saban, it wasn't just that the starters were better than everybody else. Their second, third, and fourth stringers, they could start other places. So it's about getting those guys as depth that can help make your starters better. Because if you're practicing against a tight end that played elsewhere, did good news elsewhere, even if he's not going to start over Cuevas, he's helping your second safety get better. He's helping your second team linebacker get better. And then he's going to develop and probably see a role for himself. So if Bama does anything, I think the tight end Dan mentioned, one to look at, but look at guys to increase that depth.
Patty, anything you want to add?
No, it would just be more echoing the same. People won't like excitement with this transfer portal, but it is a depth version. There's not the top end names. Nico is the biggest, and then the Ott kid at running back. And I mean, how big was he? And outside of that, you see teams like Troy. It's more what you're seeing is like, this is where you see the watering down of that level of football where Troy used to be kind of dangerous from time to time. Well, they're not going to be because these type of players are now going to go provide depth at places like Alabama. And what it does for that kid is, hey, I get to go to Alabama. I get a chance to compete and maybe I can take a step. Maybe I'm better than what people saw. I got a better chance there. Or, it's Alabama. It's a little bit better coin, I'm sure. So, it's I don't think there's much to take away from this portal time. You said it all pretty much, guys, that this is a time to add depth. And one thing is, man, I know there are certain areas that need it, but it's not too many. So you can kind of be picky right now. So it's probably not a horrible thing that there's not just a lot of top end names that you're having to worry about or having to go chase. Of course, another edge rusher, another defensive line piece, or, somebody on the offensive line, but tight end was one of the spots. So this Dalton kid could provide that depth because I think the top guys, Cuevas and Oots, are going to be okay. But, not much to add other than echoing. Yeah, I guess this portal stuff is enough to put up with, but luckily it's not too crazy right now.
Good. I want to echo and I'll close this out here. I forgot. I think Todd mentioned how, there's not much movement for Alabama. It just goes to the buy-in that a lot of players have in Tuscaloosa with Kalen DeBoer, Courtney Morgan, Womack, Shepard, all these guys. So things seem to be looking a lot different for the Crimson Tide going in this 25 season. And Van Edwards got a great comment. He said, curious to see who's going to pick up Leon Sandcastle in the portal. Great one by our good friend, Van Edwards. So, guys,
I'm liking Colorado in that situation.
Colorado. Oh, he'll have his jersey retired by next week. Listen, guys, let's go to the NFL. Speaking about NFL draft, I think it starts in 48 hours Thursday night, first round. I'm interested. It's a couple guys that on other teams that I want to discuss, but let's talk about the Bama players, and we're kind of going to go around the horn, not just in the first round, but, we got some other guys, Malachi Moore, etc. I just want to get your thoughts on the draft this year and, just potentially, just start with some of the first rounders and some of the sleepers that we will have. I'll go reverse. I'll go. Petty, do you want to start this, or you want somebody else to start this?
Someone else. I mean, I can. It doesn't matter. I'm jiggy either way, buddy.
I already know who you got. Your number one pick gonna be.
Number one pick. My new running back.
Petty, go ahead and pop.
That's funny.
We'll go in reverse. Go ahead and
brand new and improved Taysom Hill. Look, man, I want to see. I've seen Campbell's name bounce all the way, a lot. I'm very interested in Campbell. I want to see who grabs him. I think he's going to be a steal. I think he's an NFL linebacker, a long time NFL linebacker. His size to speed ratio is off the charts. He's everything you want in an NFL linebacker. So it's interesting to me that I've seen him drop as low as maybe even 19 to the Bucks, which if he goes, I think that would be fantastic for him. If you can go to an organization like that, especially one that's so good at defense, I believe it would be a great spot for him. But I'd be interested to see if someone doesn't snag him quicker because, I think he may be the best linebacker. I mean, I think he is the best linebacker in the draft. So I want to see what happens with Campbell. And look, I am interested. What do we see with Milroe? Look, we talked about it on our show on Monday night, the importance of the green room when you see players accept invitations or accept them and then decline them. Are they hearing things? Did they get some tip off? Because the one thing is you don't want to be the guy sitting in the green room and we're getting to the late 20s because then you're one of the last guys in there and every time the camera, it's panning on you and that pressure just ratchets up. So I'm real interested on guys who took the invitation. Jalen's going to be there. Is he hearing things from Cleveland? Is New York has flirted with him? I'm very interested if someone's going to pull the trigger and take Jalen. With it being, I don't think it's as bad of a quarterback draft as everybody says. And I know Shador's not going to be there, but Cam's going to be there. Jalen's going to be there. And now Dart's going to be there. I'm curious to see what the NFL likes to get trigger happy with quarterbacks in the first round. And if Cam's going to get, it seems to be number one consensus. Shador's the big question mark. You hear a lot of people say, well, yeah, there's a lot of, he may go number two. And then you hear a lot of people that are like, man, we just really don't like what we see in the kid. He's really if it wasn't for his last name, he might be a 2-3 round guy. And then that's where you get the next two are Dart and Milroe and then Quinn Ewers. Do these teams that need quarterbacks say, man, we're going to start pulling the trigger? And then you see Dart go to somewhere like the Saints or, Milroe to the Steelers. The quarterback situation in night one is absolutely fascinating to me.
Speaking of fascinating, I'm going to kind of hop around. Lushan, you're our resident, you break down a lot of film on these guys. Just want to talk about, I know you're very high on Jahai Campbell. Listen, I'm gonna give you my take after everybody goes around, but I just think he's the most versatile linebacker, and I just want to hear your thoughts about, maybe some potential teams you can possibly see him with, or where you would like to see him. And talk about, some other players who you think is going to be sleepers, if that makes any sense.
You guys know me. I've been a huge fan of Jihad since he got to Alabama. The kids played with Alabama heart and soul of a linebacker that we haven't seen in some years. And he brought that attitude, he brought that nasty, he brought that bully ball mentality back. And I do think he's gonna go higher than what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing 17 to 19 from what these guys are saying on CBS Sports. But, those guys don't really know what they're talking about all the time. I think top 10 material. I mean, to be honest, he's one of the only linebackers that I've seen be able to do everything an NFL linebacker is going to require you to do. Yeah, the dude from Georgia might be able to rush the passer, but he's terrible in space. Or, yeah, that other guy might be able to, run down and be a little bit faster than Jihad, but Jihad can rush the quarterback from everywhere. He can rush the quarterback. He can stop the run. He can call a play out. He's probably going to end up anchoring a defense once it's all said and done. And he's probably one of the few that are going to be ready day one because he's smart enough to pick up a defense. That kid was playing as a true sophomore, and that's not really something that happens, especially in the SEC. Some other players I'm looking at, Tyler Booker, he's been graded, go mid first round to late first round. This is the first time seeing of it, and this is going to make Petty happy. The Rams are taking your running back with their pick. That's the first time I've seen Jalen Milroe to the Rams, but that's what they got on here at 26.
That's interesting. The Rams, okay.
Very. A guy I'm gonna give love to. I know he's not an Alabama uniform now, but we're gonna go ahead and claim him, Trey Amos. We're wishing you the best. That dude performed for us, and he went to Petty's, second favorite school, but we're still gonna show him love. He's got a good first round, a chance to go in the first round.
He's good.
Other than that, I'm if we're going outside of an Alabama player, I'm curious to see just because I'm a Raiders fan, is Luther Burton. I think he's probably the biggest X factor because there's not really a lot of present day film on what he can actually do as a Swiss Army knife. But I think he'll
be a nice compliment to Booker.
Impact in a receiving core.
I think that's a good one. He was billed going into the season as one of the top receivers, and everybody kind of forgot about him. But Missouri's quarterback got broke during the season, so he didn't have his guy throwing to him. So Luther's stock kind of dropped by default of not having that continuity. Anybody that gets Luther Burton, I think, might be getting one of the steals in the first round. That dude can ball.
Lucian, before I take it away from you, I'm curious. I'm just so curious. Now, it's a defensive end edge rusher from Texas A&M. Shamar Stewart, who only had like 4 sacks in 3 years, but they're projecting him to go first round. I'm just curious. I mean, the production is not there, but they're still talking about, him going first round. Me personally, I think that's just showing that a guy like Hugh Robinson from Alabama could go a lot higher. And I've heard that some people have him really high on his board. Now, I'm not saying first round, but definitely a day 2, 3 guy as far as production. I know he had the 1 year, but a lot of people are high on Shamar Stewart, and I just don't see the production. Yeah, he's athletic and come off the edge, but I didn't see that. I mean, not that many sacks. I want to get your thoughts on that.
That's a good one.
I think the whole Shamar situation is more of people are getting caught up in the fact that he is a mirror to what Myles Garrett is right now, as far as stature, as far as what he did in the combine. I think they're not exactly looking at the statistical standpoint of it, because as we've seen in these last few drafts, they have gotten away from the statistical aspect of drafting players.
Mingo.
Like Anthony freaking the dude from Florida. I don't even remember his name because exactly.
Yeah. Trayvon Walker.
Richardson. Right. It's like, Right. They're drafting these guys based off superlatives that are given to them based off delusions of grandeur, basically. Like, I'm still ready to fight somebody over the fact that they gave the linebacker of the year award to a guy that didn't even lead his team in tackles. I think that is just the stupidest freaking thing I've ever heard. How do you give a linebacking award to a guy that doesn't even lead his team in tackles? Please, somebody explain that to me. But that's just me. I don't see it. I think Q Robinson, when it's all said and done, I think he will have a better career because he is able to do a little bit more than what I've been able to see that other guy do. Because, like you said, he doesn't have production. But I actually have Q Robinson going day 2.
Yeah.
But again, might be me just being a little hummer, but I do watch a lot of film.
Ty, you're hearing everything. You know more about some of these guys. What are you hearing? I know you're over there in Cowboys country. A lot of Cowboys fans out there. Just your thought on what you're hearing with some of the guys around your area in Texas, possibly Alabama, whatever, that teams like the Cowboys are pretty high on.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys need all the help they can get, so, I don't think Jesus Christ is in this draft, but that'd be a good pick for them.
Buddy Christ might be.
Jerry wouldn't have that. Jerry have to take all the credit.
Honestly, if they can get Matthew Golden, I would take Matthew Golden. I actually probably like him as my favorite wide receiver in this draft. I think he's really good. I really like McMillan too, but Matthew Golden was phenomenal for the Longhorns. High effort guy. Ran a real good 40. He's got a more complete route tree than Isaiah Bond. I think he is a bit more versatile than Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond's faster, and that's not to shame Isaiah Bond. I think he's going to be a great wide receiver in the NFL, but Golden, I think, is just really a unique player. Excited to see where he goes. But actually, I'm not going to lie to you. My favorite non-Alabama player in the draft that I think will get taken in the first round is Jahdae Barron. Now, he's that defensive back from the University of Texas. He started off at nickel corner, then moved to outside corner, just won the defensive back award. The kid's phenomenal. I mean, he is a phenomenal player. You want to have a lot of fun watching a DB. Matt, you would really like it being a wide receiver. You'd probably get a lot of appreciation. Seriously, go check out some Matthew Golden. Or, I'm sorry, from some Jahdae Barron.
Yeah, he's nice. From Texas.
He's real nice. Like, he's really, really good. For Alabama, I think that Tyler Booker, Jahad Campbell's my answer, but Petty really, I think, hit the nail on the head. Lushan hit the nail on the head. Tyler Booker, I think, is the best interior offensive lineman in this draft. I think that he is going to make a team very happy. So excited to see where he goes. Part of me, the greed in me, is hoping that my Vikings are able to get him, but I just don't think that he's going to be around when my Vikings pick. That sucks, but that's the nature of it. Petty, you were talking about Luther Burden, and Lushan, y'all were talking about Luther Burden. My hot take, it's a little bit less. Like, don't get me wrong, the quarterback production certainly hurt, but to me, it's a little bit less about the quarterback production with Luther Burden. I think that this year's wide receiver class is kind of getting slept on because the best 2 wide receivers in college football were true freshmen, and one of them was a 17-year-old. I think whenever these NFL teams are looking, they're looking and they're like, there's not a Ryan Williams, there's not a Jeremiah Smith.
Oh, no, they try to. Jeremiah Smith would be the first receiver taken in the draft right now.
He'd be probably top 5 in this draft. I mean, he's that good, and Ryan Williams is another one that would just command a very. So I think that's a big thing.
He's gonna be there.
It is interesting though. Your point about Dart and Shadur, that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
I think it's the biggest, most intriguing thing of of the first night. To be honest, is what happens with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on the quarterbacks. I want to get bring Dan in here. Maybe talk about guys like Malachi Moore. Definitely a day two guy, but I'm looking at teams like the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, they'll be sneaky and grab a Malachi Moore. Dan, can you highlight some
That was
of
my
the
sleeper player.
yeah, Mallet. You know, Howard Roseman, he's always looking to get a really good polished product. You know, obviously they won the Super Bowl, they get the 32nd pick. But listen, I think he's a steal for some teams. And if you got any other players you want to discuss, Dan, feel free to join them to your conversation.
Well, you just stole my thunder. I was gonna yeah, I was gonna mention Malachi. But you know, I say number one as far as Bama guys is Tyler Booker, simply because of the value of his position. You know, he's a guy. He can play on the interior, but he also can play, you know, tackle. He can slide out the tackle. I think he could be a very serviceable tackle in the NFL. Jahad Campbell, like Lou mentioned, this is a guy that can play in space. He can do all the things. You know what I'm saying? He can play in space. He can rush the pass. You know, he's a every down linebacker. You know, and his size, and you know, I'm looking for someone, you know, to pick him up earlier than teams expect, than a lot of people expect. Q Rob, to me, you know, excellent. You know, I think he's a third down guy. You know, he leaves a little to be desired, you know, in the run game, you know what I'm saying? But he's a guy just because of what he can do, you know, which is very, very high in the NFL, is a guy that I think could go a little higher. Jalen Milroe, you know, like you say, he's a you know, I heard the best description of him is I heard a lottery ticket. You know, you never know what you're gonna get. You know, he'll have to be in the right situation. You know, look at Dallas. You know, what the hell? You know, you've been putting up with Dak Prescott for years. You know, so you know, why not go for it? You know, but who else am I missing?
Listen, you got CJ Dupree, James Burnip, probably be the first punter off the board. Robbie Oots can be a fullback.
Yeah.
You can definitely see somebody
combine killer. Yeah, Robbie Oots.
Yeah, Robbie Oots. So
Robbie Air Oots, you know,
with the stash, you know, he did it. So I'm just gonna give y'all my predictions on the draft. Listen, I think to Petty's point, I mean, all y'all made great points. Listen, I think it's gonna be big drama. I'm looking at that number 5 pick. I'm looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, done. You know, you're hearing a lot of stuff with Derek Carr out the Saints. This is just Matt's hypothetical theories. I could possibly see Jacksonville. Well, I feel like Ashton Jennings is going to go pretty. I think teams are kind of going to be pushing to kind of get in front of the Raiders possibly. But I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence. You know, they got a new coach. Could the Saints maybe try to trade up, maybe get a Trevor Lawrence on New Orleans Saints? That makes a lot of sense. You know, and then maybe, you know, Jacksonville takes Shador Sanders. You never know. I don't, you know, I could definitely see Shador go as far as 21. And I think the back half of the draft is really what's interesting. I think Cam Ward's going number 1. But I'm just baffled by New York Giants because they signed Ryan Williams. I'm not Ryan Williams, but maybe they will be 2 years from now. Russell Wilson and Jameis Wilson. I'm like, are they using one for like bait, you know, trade bait? It's crazy. Maybe are they trying to trade back up in the first round? Listen, I think Milroe, I could definitely see Milroe. I could see a Steelers maybe trading down. I think you got some teams that will probably position themselves high second or maybe try to trade in the first. Petty, to your point, especially if Shador goes a little bit higher, but if he goes at 21, it's going to be a run on like two other quarterbacks after that, in my opinion. And I think we're going to get caught off. Just think last year, nobody was talking about Atlanta Falcons trading up to get Michael Penix. So, listen, stuff gets crazy. What are we going to say?
Let me ask you, if Shador drops that far, do you see the rest of the quarterbacks that are ranked behind him, Dart at 3, Milroe at 4, dropping out of the first, or do you see maybe just Shador dropping and someone coming in and snagging Dart before?
I see somebody coming in. I see somebody coming in and get Shador and Milroe. Because you look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, they don't have. Everybody's talking about Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, they're in a division where they have to see Lamar Jackson twice. You know, maybe they sign a veteran, get a Kirk Cousins, and let whatever. I'm just throwing hypotheticals out there and let Milroe kind of learn. But it's just gonna be interesting drama. Like it's just that I love this time of the year, leading up to the draft, because you hear so many different types of stories. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if that Trevor Lawrence.
Well, and I hope everybody here knows this. If Milroe's name comes off that board Thursday night, I'll be the first person out of my seat going, "Oh hell," going crazy for the kid. I hope not.
Straight live to Petty.
I hope they need him in the green room, and then they need me sitting there with, because I'll shock the world with my response. Because I hope the kid goes. Because the thing about it is his talent is undeniable, and what Dan mentioned earlier, you put him in the right spot, the right organization. And that's the thing, man. The first round for these kids, it's like a landmine. You can either end up in the organizations of death, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, or you can end up in an organization like the Pittsburgh Steelers that really know how to, it's just, and if you end up in the right place, it can change your fortunes. You end up in the wrong place, and we may never hear from you again. So, yeah, it's a lot of intrigue going into this one. One of the more intrigue in years, actually, for me.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm excited. I love this time of the year just to hear all the stories. But it's going to be some bangers out there that, no pun intended, I think it's just the NFL is such a quarterback. People it's going to be hard to pass on 4 or 5 quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? Teams.
You've seen them take Trey Lance in the first round, for God's sakes. Come on.
They had Josh Rosen number 1 a couple of years ago. I mean, look how that panned out.
Those guys can throw slants.
Now here is the debate, though, that I would like to get into.
Just saying, those
Who
guys
would be
can all
the
throw
second
slants.
quarterback off the board?
What'd you say?
I think
Who's
it may
the
be
second
Dart.
quarterback off the board?
There's a lot of fire that the Saints may take Dart at 9.
I can see that too.
See, that's going to be fascinating. But that Florida tape is so tremendously bad.
The last 2 minutes of Florida are always going to come back. What happened? Because it wasn't
when
like
the lights
what happened
were
to your
brightest.
brain. Well, that's where the moment was the biggest, and you had to drive your team down, and you had time. And you didn't do it once; you did it twice. Like you had 2 chances and blew both of them. I was there that Saturday. That was a very odd scene, and I think that's a great question, Ty. That's the question I promise he's had to answer the most is explain to me the last 3 minutes in Florida.
Who are you guys taking? Who are you guys taking as a quarterback then?
First, Cam Ward.
Who's that?
Second.
Chris, what you got to
we got a bro fight going on. Cam would be my first, and then I'm
taking second.
Dart. I think Dart's an NFL quarterback.
Elroy.
Hey, fellas. What up, Chris?
What up, Chris?
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Elroy had to come make his appearance, Just being
Chat, chime in. Who you taking second at quarterback? Trojan fight. Well, that's a round table. It's you.
You want to take a second at quarterback?
What quarterback you taking?
Probably Dart. Probably Dart.
Dart.
Is that who you're with, Lou? Dart.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Dart.
Hell yeah.
Ty? You had Matt, Ty?
I'd probably go Shador over Dart.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Why?
I'm torn.
Because when the
torn.
lights are the brightest,
Why?
I've seen Dart completely self-destruct with a team that far out talented what Shadur has to work with,
I really like Dart.
and an offensive coordinator that's not Lane Kiffin.
I really like Dart. I don't know. I don't know. That's tough. But I don't have to make that decision.
Dart played in the SEC and carved up actual,
I mean, you got the Georgia
reputable
game,
defenses. So,
but man,
I mean, yeah, he had
got-
some games, and then I
might go
watched him.
Shador.
I'm with, but the time I'm with you like that.
I got Shador.
Take it from the
Dart.
fan side of me. There was, I don't know, man. But I did not see the sides of Dart.
Nope.
Dart shows things, and I don't want to pay. I hate the comparison thing because if they don't live up to it, you're like, well, that was a dumbass comparison. But he plays the game in a similar style that Josh Allen plays the game. He's not the best, but he can run. He plays. He's a football player, and I think he's impressed people on the boards, which is very important when you get in these NFL. They're gonna fire questions at you. They're gonna fire defenses at you. How do you answer on the chalkboard? I think he's done well there. I get it. I don't know, man. I think it's a great debate that Shador, but I mean, I don't know, man. I think Dart's going to be a little different. I think he's been a kid. You know, Kiffin brought in Spencer Sanders, brought in a starter from Oklahoma State. It pissed him off. In this era, a lot of kids would have just transferred, taken their ball and go home. He said, "No, this is my team. Sit your ass on the bench." And Ole Miss, congratulations for wasting $1 million on a dude that never stepped on the field. So I think there's been elements of his time at Ole Miss that may have prepped him. But again, I don't know, man. I'm with you. The one thing that holds me up is the last 4 minutes in Gainesville.
Well, and to me, it's also like, go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just gonna say I think 4 quarterbacks get drafted in the first round. What were we gonna say?
Okay.
Well, when I look at Dart, like he had some excellent performances. But he also had 5 games where he failed to throw for 60% completion with a Lane Kiffin offense. Right? Like that to me, mixed with the self-destruct in Florida, that to me is like, ugh. He had like a 67% on the year, but he had against like MTSU a 90-something% completion percentage. Against Mississippi State, he failed to hit 60%. Against Florida, he failed to hit 60%. Against Georgia, he failed to hit 60%.
I'm a one-up you, Ty. And Ole Miss is one of their biggest games in the prior season was in Tuscaloosa. Ole Miss had a team that they thought was going to beat Alabama. Kiffin thought he had the team, and he probably did. There was a moment late in the game, fourth quarter, Ole Miss was driving to either tie it or take the lead at the time. I can't remember exactly what the score was. And Dart had a guy in the end zone. It was on him. All he had to do was make the play, and the throw wasn't there. So again, I hear you, Ty, and that's a little bug in my ear. But then there's another side of me that thinks this kid's just a football player and he's going to make it.
I do agree with you there. He definitely is.
To y'all's point, I know we're talking about Dart and Shador. I don't think Shador is going to the Giants. I think the Giants have been high. I think they're not going to say they're higher on Jackson Dart and Milroe, but I think they're kind of comfortable taking one of those two guys later in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised at all with Brian Daboll, his ties with the SEC. Listen, you got to look at that division. I mean, you got Jaden Daniels, Jaden Daniels, freaking Jalen Hurts. You got to come with it at the quarterback position. So it's going to be interesting. I think either Dart or Milroe might probably end up being in the Giants. I think Shador probably either be a Saint or Pittsburgh, something like that.
I hope Milroe goes in the first round. I hope it's not the Giants.
Milroe will be a first rounder. You don't get you don't get an invite to the green room for nothing. It's a team out there that's let it be known that they're going to take Milroe. That's why he has that green room invite.
Didn't Will Levis get invited to the green room and get left?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you know, You know, like
They
somebody
been top 3 pick.
I don't
like
think
somebody-
they would do that. They've done it to guys. I don't think they would do that to Jalen.
check this.
Nobody
Yeah,
been
but
looking.
you guys are counting on some crazy shit not happening. Some crazy shit happens. There might be 2 quarterbacks that don't go.
Check this
Very
out.
well could. You're damn well could, Luke.
We don't know.
Check this out though. Listen, like I think it was Lewis Reddick or somebody. They brought up a big point the other day on ESPN. They said that if you took Jalen Milroe's 10 best throws, it's a team out there that saw that and they feel like they can fix whatever's wrong with him. You know, the rest. They said that he's more athletic than any quarterback. He's faster, more explosive than any quarterback that's come out in a long time. And it's been flashes of brilliance, you know, that he's had at times. And he said it's a team out there that feels like they can fix what's wrong, and he can turn out and be another Lamar Jackson type. Because when Lamar came out, what was the knock on him? He's just an athlete. He can't make the throws. What he's doing now, just dropping dimes all over the place. Jalen Hurts, he can't do this. Yeah. Now what he's done, he just won a Super Bowl. So it's a team out there that's gonna tailor their offense, you know, around him eventually. I don't think he's gonna come in and start, but I think he's gonna come in and behind a team that has a veteran quarterback, probably sit for 2 years, and then kind of take over slowly and just develop behind the scenes. Next thing you know, you're looking up Jalen Milroe's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I give it 3 years.
You know who I think is one of the most interesting quarterbacks in this draft, just because of the disparity between their best work and their worst work, is Quinn.
I knew you were gonna. Yeah, I figured you were going Quinn.
Yeah, because his best work is art.
Could be a late round. It could be a great steal in the later round. And
he's not going to make it that far. I think he's a
second.
I think he's a day two guy. I think he's a day 2 guy.
His game in Tuscaloosa it's a tough rewatch for me, but it
he was dropping dimes, man.
Well, and he played really hurt this year. So I mean, yeah, that's a good one. He could be a steal in the second round of the QB class.
Justin.
All right, guys, I got a question, and those of you who are football players on here, I really would like to hear from you, most definitely. Yes, Jalen Milroe's throwing is one of the most debated things right now going into the draft. Will coaches be able to correct his issue there? But my second question would be, how do you get him to suffer from short-term memory loss, essentially be Dory, and forget about things when they go wrong and rise above adversity? A lot of the problem I have with Milroe, aside from where he was placing the ball, was his crash out problem. When things were going wrong, when adversity was striking, he would go into this destruct mode and he couldn't be pulled out. Not only that, he would go to the sideline and sit in solitude away from everyone. He wasn't on the phone with his coaches. At least we couldn't see that on camera. He wasn't by his teammates going over things. Hey, how can we make this better? What do I need to do to make sure that we come out in the next play and prevent this from happening again? He went and sat by himself. He right now is a play ahead quarterback. If things are going right, he is on. We saw it against Georgia in the first half. We saw it in other games too. But my biggest concern is, can coaches correct the mental side that he struggles with? And I know a lot of people may take this the wrong way, but that's a legitimate concern for NFL coaches. When things are on the line, are you going to continue to crash out, or is that something that you can put behind you and be a true leader and your team can rally behind you?
I wouldn't say crash out. I think crash out is not the correct term. I would say, yeah, he's got to work on, that's why I think the way that you can do it, you look at the New York Giants, he'll have 2 veteran, like a Jameis Winston and a Russell Wilson, to learn from. So I think, to your point, Justin, it's going to take patience. You look at a Josh Allen. Josh Allen wasn't where he was coming out of Wyoming. It's going to take, you're going to have to do a lot of work. And luckily in the NFL, you don't have to go to school. You don't have to worry about none of that stuff. So I think you got to have a program in place for Milroe, because he has the right tools, and if you have the patience and put in the work, you can fix those things like when things aren't going right, it was just, he needs to develop those areas. So I think veteran leadership and having a plan, I don't see any program that's not going to have a plan for him, but I think he'll eventually get there. Anything, Ty, Chris?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that is going to help Milroe is actually getting a fresh start. I think with Milroe, we have to look at it like this. You're a college kid who backed up Bryce Young, who was, in my opinion, the best Alabama quarterback to ever play. Right? I know Petty likes Tua. I'm not going to argue with Tua. Listen, that's a right answer. But for me personally, just in terms of what Bryce did, I thought it was some of the best quarterback play I've ever seen. I had so much fun. Jalen backed him up. Then he has his first year starting, and he makes first-year mistakes. Fine, right? Give me a quarterback that doesn't make first-year mistakes. His second year is a year where Nick Saban retires, and he put a lot of pressure on himself. Being the first guy to walk into Mal Moore, stop, look at the media and say, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. So I think he put a lot on himself to be that guy that was a steady force. And so when things didn't go well, he took it very hard because he wanted more than anybody on this panel. I think Jalen wanted to get Alabama to the promised land. And so when things didn't go well, it affected him in a way that was just hard to shake because he put so much pressure on himself. So I actually think in a roundabout way, getting to the NFL is going to alleviate some of that pressure where now it's a fresh start. Now you don't have to be the guy that is there after Bryce or after the GOAT retires, putting this pressure on yourself because now you're in more of a system, if you will. So I don't know. That's just one of the ways I look at it.
Chris?
Yeah. I agree with Ty. I think it was due to a lot of pressure he had placed on himself. But I think somebody could fix it, Justin. I feel like it's a team out there that has the proper plan for him. It's going to be somebody that's going to take a chance on him, and he's going to learn. He's going to sit and learn. Now, for the Giants, Matt, I think for the Giants to get him, I think that they'll be a team that trades back into the first round because they need weapons. They're outside Malik Neighbors. They need weapons, so I think they'll draft a weapon early, and it'll be somebody coming back into the back end of the first round that plans on moving back into the back end of the first round that's going to get him. That's why I say I think he may sneak into the late first round, but he just needs to sit, Justin, and just learn how to be a professional. You know what I'm saying? And not just any veteran quarterback, but a veteran quarterback that's not a selfish guy, a team player.
Yeah,
like a Russell Wilson. It doesn't get much better than a high character guy like Russ or even if he went somewhere out west, like behind Stafford, or just think outside the box. Somebody that's that probably has a good 2 to 3 more years left on him, and that'll be able to handle. Because you think about it, man, running wise, he has a lot of Michael Vick in him, just making things happen with his legs. Then Mike Vick was a guy that developed as a passer after he did that stint, that time away from the game where he got in, that trouble, that federal trouble. When he came back, he was a much better passer with the Eagles. Michael Vick was slinging it around better than he did with the Falcons. So because he sat, coaching matters. Yeah, so it can't just be it can't be anybody. Hey, what about a guy like Andy Reid, a quarterback guru? Because the Chiefs like to use guys. He can be he can be somebody that the Chiefs, because the Chiefs don't have many holes. He can be somebody that comes in second round, maybe, and sit behind Mahomes and be a something for Andy Reid, to another weapon for him to develop behind Mahomes. because we saw how much Mahomes got banged up, how he was limping all year, you know. So, I mean, we just have to think outside the box.
And I don't mean to take a shot at him. That is just a genuine concern, and being able to overcome that.
We like
and
that.
I wasn't sure if that's something that you either have it or you don't. But do you guys agree that maybe, of course, sit behind a veteran who's going to really pour life into you, maybe help you move past those issues. But do you guys maybe agree to him taking on a role of, say, like Taysom Hill, as Petty mentioned, or Debo Samuel, or something similar to a Cordell Stewart his first couple of years, to where he can get on the field, get meaningful snaps, and use his athleticism to make a genuine impact. And then when he's truly ready to take the lead as the QB1, he'll be ready to do it. Do y'all think that would be a logical route?
Yeah, Luke. I think you got to have a plan. But Luke, you go first.
I don't see that happening at all. I think he is going to be a quarterback. I think a lot of people have gotten so far away with something called NFL development. What great quarterback came in year one and was absolutely destroying it? It rarely, if ever, happens.
Right.
That's why I said rarely, if ever, happens. I mean, other than that, it doesn't happen. And we have yet to see if it's actually going to take in year two. Yeah, you get him year one, but a lot of times you don't get him that second year. So I'm not expecting him. I mean, look at what Bryce Young did. Bryce Young, as Ty said, was the best quarterback in Alabama football history, and he got struggled. His bell handed to him.
But he had nothing.
So
literally,
he got
I think people need to have a little bit more.
He still has nothing.
I think people
but he
need
got
to
better
have a little
as the year
bit
went
more
on.
realistic outlook on what his NFL career is going to be. He's not going to be a starter right off rip. He's going to take some time. He's going to need to develop. And as we've said, there are some teams that can do it. And honestly, I think it's actually scary. And it should scare a lot of fans, because there are those types of coaches that could take his athletic ability and make an absolute nightmare for defenses around the NFL for the next decade plus. So, I think that if certain coaches, and we've seen them do it time and time again, that if they want him, they're going to go get him. And it doesn't matter really who's going on or who anybody says is on the board. If a head coach feels they want a guy and they can go get a guy, they're going to go get him. Oh, who won that match?
That was a turn heel. We got a turn heel.
I heard Dan's a Paul Heyman guy.
But Justin, I'm glad you brought that up. Ty, Lucian, Chris, I heard. Now I'm not saying anything. I heard Kellen Moore, the new head coach at the New Orleans Saints, just came working with Jalen Hurts, won the Super Bowl. I heard, don't be shocked about hearing some smoke with the Saints. I'm just saying.
If the Saints, that'd be interesting.
Maybe not at 9, but later in the draft.
Later in the draft. Seeing it'd be interesting if they don't go QB at 9. That would be, Again, that's
I can see them trading back.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's what I'm hearing. It's going to be interesting. I love this time of the year. That was a great topic.
And the development thing, man. Jaden Daniels is a freaking unicorn. Look, Bryce Young, go back to this last season. Everybody wrote him off after he got benched. You watched the second half playing on that crap Panthers freaking team, and he got better as the year. With Chuba Hubbard and the offensive Thielen and the pieces they had, he made it work, and that they started winning and scratching out some wins at the end. But most quarterbacks don't come in. I mean, Peyton Manning broke the interception record as a rookie. John Elway went 4-12 and lined up under the freaking guard. Look, man, the list goes on and on. That's why I hope. I don't want it to be someone like the damn Giants. And I'd almost say, Kellen Moore, he may be an up and comer, but the Saints are a shit show of an organization. You don't want, man, you want it to be an organization that has a track record of developing players, taking time. Someone like Sumlin in Pittsburgh, which I know the offense is different, but that type of mentality where you've got an organization that will be patient, work something, see something in them. I think that's where it's going to work. And then there is a very big possibility that we see Jalen Milroe playing a lot of football.
And I don't expect him to play year one, and I don't expect him to have a unicorn of an impact that very few have had. I just more so want to ask the question, while he waits, why not maximize his abilities in different ways? Not necessarily saying you're going to stay in this switchblade knife type role, but while you wait to become that guy, this is what we're going to do with you.
Well, they did it all the way back to Cordell Stewart. I mean, before Cordell, they let him do, some switchblade stuff. So, yeah, it's absolutely a possibility.
I just don't want to usually when that happens, they get locked in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is
And I think Jalen Milroe got –
and then they don't get
I think he got asked that question. He got asked that question at the draft, and he says, I'm a quarterback. I don't think he wants to do anything besides play quarterback.
I get that, but
that kind of goes into a lot of,
But you also need to tell Coach, I'm willing to do whatever you want me to do until my time comes. That's just the way I feel about it. But
I think a lot
like
of people.
But this is the NFL, Justin. This isn't college. You need specialists.
No, I get that.
Positions, not like, a guy that, is sitting behind another guy. He's just fast. There's other fast guys. This is the NFL. Everybody's got the same level of talent. You know what I'm saying?
I can punt the shit out of a football. Okay. I mean, I can punt it clear over those mountains over there. I'm telling the Dallas Cowboys right now.
We have a TikTok showing
whatever you need me to do. They don't want to put me at guard, right? Like, I don't know. For Milroe, he needs to develop, and I think whenever you get that kind of situation, like a Taysom Hill, they don't develop.
Depends on coaching. It all goes back to coaching. I mean, Cordell was in that role for a while, and then he eventually became the guy at Pittsburgh, did well. He also went to the Ravens and did well and went to the Pro Bowl. But I think it all comes down to coaching. That was just my question, but I appreciate you guys for answering it.
Yeah, I think the later, the better the organization for any of these quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're going up top, you see what Bryce Young.
Yeah.
You see.
But Matt,
you just know, though.
I thought about that when I thought Mac Jones fell into a great position. When he fell to the Patriots, I was so excited.
Oh, yeah, I thought that
was before. Yeah, but that was before they decided to go hire a defense coordinator as offense. They ruined him. So yeah, it's just I guess timing matters too. You know what I'm saying? So
and the organization.
Going into the draft. Yeah, right. So
I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be in the green room as a quarterback, and when the Cleveland Browns got on the clock, them to put the camera on me at any point, because it would be quite obvious. My feelings like, no. God, no, just take me. I'll be Mr. Irrelevant. Just don't take me, Browns.
Look what they did to Baker. Baker
they did
such good work for that franchise, and they treated him like dirt. Like he wasn't a big reason they were turning it around. You hit the nail on the head with that one, Petty. I might tell them they'd call my name and I'd mulligan.
I'm gonna take up water polo instead, guys. Y'all have at it.
Filibuster.
Listen, it's gonna be an exciting draft. Give us your takes in the comments. But it's gonna be interesting. I think 4 quarterbacks going first round. I see 3 Alabama players from Alabama. I see 3 possibly Ole Miss players. Definitely Walter Nolan.
Definitely. And Amos.
Yeah. And Amos.
Yeah. And
I think Dart too.
Yeah.
I tell you who may be the steal of the late round draft is Maxwell Harrison, the cornerback from Kentucky. Somebody's going to get that kid late, and man, bad team, kid's a baller.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, guys, let's shift back gears to Alabama real quick. And let's talk about Coach Cap and the offensive line development. I know Coach Cap, he signed probably what? Dan, was that the number one offensive line class last year in the country? With Michael Carroll and all those guys.
Yeah.
Let's just discuss,
Right.
you know,
Right.
Coach Cap. Yo, you go, Dan. Sorry.
Yes, you know, that was even